All right, Dev with Crime Hive, and this episode is about investigative tools that got them caught. Now, this is the first episode in this series. I will continue to have episodes on how they were caught, where I talk about true crime stories, but the focus of this episode is about technology called Starchase. So, this particular episode, I posted a TikTok about this, and there was quite the engagement. There was a lot of discussion. And so, if you haven't seen that video, hop over to my TikTok at Crime Hive and take a look at some of the comments and the discussion, which is what I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm going to share with you what is Starchase? What is this technology? How are police using it? Let's get into it.
Crime Hive. Crime Hive. True crime buzz.
Okay, so what is Starchase? Well, think of it as a vehicle-mounted GPS launcher. On the website, starchase.com, they talk about it being a vehicle tagging system. So it tracks and it locates fleeing vehicles of interest to police. Now, it's a small cylindrical projectile that is fired out of the vehicle, out of the police vehicle, from the grille. So from the front of the vehicle, there is this compressed air that is fired out to the back of a suspect vehicle. It has a GPS tracker on it. It's battery operated, it has a quad band transmitter, and what it allows police to do is coordinate with dispatch, who can then track the movement of that vehicle real time and relay that back to police. So I want to talk about pros and cons. And so there are definitely people who are for this technology and then people who are not. And I'm just going to share both the pros and cons and really just give you an idea again of what this is and how it's used. In theory, what police are looking to do with this technology is let's create a scenario. Let's say a robbery took place at a bank and some suspects fled in a stolen vehicle from that bank. Police later catch up to that vehicle. Instead of going through a high-speed pursuit, a pro would be that this is a less than lethal option. So instead of them potentially catching up to this vehicle and issuing a pit maneuver where they actually ram the vehicle and then the vehicle spins out and they're able to apprehend the suspects, that could potentially kill or injure people, including the officers. And so their stance is this would allow them to dart the vehicle. It's going to stick with this strong industrial adhesive and it will stay on the vehicle. They would wait for the suspect or suspects to drive off, maybe get complacent and realize that no one's chasing them any longer. No one's chasing the vehicle. This would allow police to continue to monitor their movements and eventually create an environment that's safer for them to make an arrest. They're all about officer safety with this technology, so that would be a pro for using Starchase. Another pro, now there were a lot of comments on this about if a vehicle was stuck by one of these darts, that they would just be able to remove it. And I'll talk about that in the cons as well. But a pro would be, according to the website, it is difficult to remove it. So they say that it prevents a driver from being able to remove it. Now, I did see officer comments who've used the technology and they said that it can be removed, but it takes some work, takes some effort to be able to do that. That could be a pro or a con. So for a pro, makes it difficult to remove, and if you're thinking this is a fight or flight situation, it's very dynamic. The individual who may have committed this crime isn't thinking as clearly, and they may not have time to get out of the vehicle and try to remove this device before police maybe intercept them, knowing their location as well during this entire encounter. So that's one pro there. Another aspect to this is high-speed chases, again, can be very dangerous, and just the act of a high-speed chase can cause other citizens, other people out there to potentially be injured or killed from a vehicle moving erratically trying to avoid police. So that's that perception. But let's talk about some cons. I've kind of alluded to some of the cons with it. Though in theory, it's great if this dart can hit the back of this vehicle. A lot of officers have left comments saying that it's not always accurate and it doesn't always stick. So if you're in this situation where you're trying to laser aim this dart onto the vehicle, it does have this little laser that is aimed from a control panel in the officer's vehicle, and they attempt to hit the back of that vehicle. It can miss, and it's not always going to be real-time results coordinated with dispatch. It could lag, so that's another con, is the information could lag some and it may not be completely accurate real time, which would allow the suspect to be able to get away. Another con is, though it does take some work to remove this dart, this GPS dart, it can still be done. So if they're potentially using a tool or an item other than their hands, they could potentially remove the device. Some people believe that you might be able to remove it and place it on another vehicle. It doesn't seem likely because this material is heated up. It's like a heated epoxy that sticks to that vehicle. And if someone's going to work to remove it, it may not work as well to be able to put that on another vehicle unless you used duct tape or something like that. And again, this is such a quick scenario that people aren't going to be thinking of these types of scenarios real time, but that is a possibility to at least remove the dart and be able to get away. Other cons to this is the vehicle, because police are not pursuing, the vehicle can get a distance away and then switch cars, switch vehicles, or ditch that vehicle and go off on foot and get away. Another con would be because the vehicle is darted, the police officer may not see the suspect and may not have a description of the suspect. So when they do catch up to the vehicle, if they do, and the suspects are not in that vehicle, they then have to prove who was the driver, who was part of this crime, and that could potentially be challenging as well in court. So you have that angle. Another big con, and this was provided by a lot of people in the comments on this TikTok video, and that is a jammer device, which I'll just pull up the website here from Geotab that explains this pretty well. A GPS jammer is basically a small self-contained transmitter device that's used to conceal one's location. It sends radio signals with the same frequency as the GPS device. Because the GPS device is unable to determine its position due to the interference because of that radio signal. So it kind of blocks that signal and it creates interference. Now, they're cheap to buy. You can buy these in stores all over. They're small. That's definitely something that could be used potentially to create this interference signal. I think it's around 5 to 10 meter radius that it can disrupt the reception of a GPS satellite signal. So that is another con. I want to pull up a couple questions that were asked from the TikTok video. There were comments and questions. Some people have asked if police can use this device on motorcycles. It appears that they're not authorized for many reasons. The danger of hitting an individual on a bike and potentially hurting or killing them. So motorcycles are not authorized, along with other types of vehicles such as semi-trucks. I've heard that, and this could depend on the city, state, county laws and jurisdictions, but some vehicles, larger vehicles, are also not authorized. Some people asked about the price of this. This could be a con or a pro depending on where you're located. This technology has been used since about 2006, so it's not new, but it is new to some agencies because it's not used all over. Only some vehicles use it. So you don't have an entire fleet necessarily of police vehicles that are using this. So similarly to a canine vehicle, you have a canine vehicle, not all the vehicles are going to be canine vehicles. So it is a special vehicle that's used, and they're about $5,000 to install apparently, and each projectile is about $500, and there's a subscription with it. So that's what you're looking at. I know some people talked about taxpayer money and thinking that it just wasn't worth it. So that just gives you an idea of kind of what you're looking at. And then some people brought up legal issues and privacy issues, and that's definitely a concern for people when we're talking about GPS tracking technology. Some states, from what I understand, do require a warrant for that. Now, some states allow the use of Starchase without a warrant, and the explanation is because it's a heat of a chase that allows them to use it because they don't have time to get a warrant in this dynamic situation. So that's one argument. Policy analysts have talked about the probable cause with this wrongdoing. They just don't have time to get a warrant, and so the tracker does need to be removed once authorities find the stolen vehicle. And also, some people believe it should only be used when there's a violent felony involved. However, it is used for property crimes a lot of times. So stolen vehicle being a property crime, not a violent felony, it is used for a lot of other types of crimes, not just violent felonies. Some people don't think it should be used at all just because it would be highly ineffective. Some people believe that they would hear the device hitting the vehicle, so a thud noise, they would hear it, they would be aware. That doesn't seem to be the case all the time because, again, you're going at high speeds, it's loud, the adrenaline, the mindset, everything. You may not be paying attention to every aspect and you may not hear it, but would certainly make a noise. And if you're aware of this type of technology, you may be aware that you're being tracked with it. So I'm just giving pros and cons. I hope you find this helpful. One last thing I want to point out, some people were worried about police using it in nefarious ways. From what I understand, when it's deployed, it's documented in many different ways. So oftentimes they're coordinating with dispatch, so over the radio, everyone is aware that the Starchase is being deployed, and it would need to be documented in a report. They have 2 tries on each vehicle, so if a vehicle is equipped with one, there's 2 projectiles. They have 2 chances to be able to make an accurate hit, but it's not something that would necessarily be used to track everyday citizens. That definitely could happen with other pieces of equipment, and that's a whole different conversation, which I can talk about on another episode. So I know that's a concern for some people. And again, my role here is I want to be very neutral, but make sure you're aware of this technology, know what it is, how police are using it. I hope you found this educational, hope you found it helpful. I will continue to make more videos with this series being investigative tools that got them caught. It's been very interesting. There's been a lot of feedback and a lot of interest with it. So if you want to connect with me on social media, again, I'm on TikTok. My user is Crime Hive. I'm on YouTube and on Instagram. And so you can connect with me if you have questions or feedback. I'll be back with another video, you all. Take care.
Crime Hive. True Crime Buzz.